The Children of Lir. A long time ago, two sides fought a fierce battle for the destiny of Ireland. One side of the battle was the Gaels, who roamed the continent of Europe for hundreds of years before arriving in Ireland. The other side was the Tuatha de Danann, the people who had long ruled the island. The Gaels won the battle and thereafter ruled Ireland. After their defeat, the De Dananns from all 5 provinces of Ireland assembled to choose a king to rule over them. The De Dananns knew that they had no choice but to unite their separate clans into one, as a matter of survival. So a decision was made to choose one of 5 leading chiefs as king. The remaining chiefs, besides the 5 candidates, held a solemn gathering and debated who should become king. They decided that the most fitting person for such a high position was Bodbh Dearg of Connaught. But one of the candidates, Lir of Monaghan, took the election of another as a personal insult. He was angry and filled with envy. Lir stormed out of the assembly without speaking to anyone, and he showed no homage or any sign of respect to the new king. Lir's ill-mannered behaviour angered the other chiefs. They agreed amongst themselves to raise an army and march to Lir's fortress in Monaghan. Once there, they would burn down the fortress and kill Lir, but the new king, Bodbh Dearg, stopped them.
Lir is a powerful man, and now an embittered one as well. If we attempt to destroy him with an army, he will defend his territory, and many men will be killed that we cannot spare. Whatever the result, it will not make me any more your king than I am now.
The remaining chiefs were impressed by Bodbh's wisdom and justice. For many years, King Bodbh ruled over the De Danann from his palace in Connaught, and Lir lived with his people in isolation in Monaghan. Then a great misfortune struck Lir. His beautiful wife died from a mysterious illness over the course of just a few days. The entire island mourned her death. King Bodbh was particularly moved. He felt sad for Lir's dear wife and felt compassion for poor Lir. Bodbh told his nobles,
"It is times such as this that a man is most in need of friendship. Lir has too long been a stranger. Now that his wife is dead, I must offer my friendship to him if he would accept it. As you all know, I am foster father to the 2 daughters of Aoife of the Aran Islands. They are among the most accomplished and beautiful women in Ireland. I will offer one of them in marriage to Lir, and Lir would be foolish to reject such an offer of friendship."
Lir was pleased with the message. He assembled a large entourage and began the long journey to Bodbh's castle in Connaught. Lir was greeted with much fanfare and celebration when he arrived. King Bodbh soon introduced his 2 foster daughters. They were as good as represented. Each was beautiful, witty and intelligent. The eldest was Niamh and youngest was Aoife. Lir found it difficult to choose.
To choose is beyond me, for I cannot say which of them the best is. But if I must, I will choose the eldest, for she must be the most fitting to be the wife of a De Danann chief.
All were impressed by Lir's wisdom, and the king agreed to the match. A great feast was held at Bodbh's castle to celebrate the wedding. Over time, Lir and Niamh had 4 children, a girl named Fionnuala, a boy named Aodh, and twins boys, named Fiachra and Conn. But the birth of twins was met with both joy and sadness, for Niamh died giving birth to them, and for a second time Lir had lost his wife. When the news reached him, King Bodbh Dearg felt nearly as much grief as Lir. But after a long period of mourning over the loss of his foster daughter, Bodbh assembled the chiefs and said,
"We are all afflicted with the terrible sorrow of the death of Niamh, but no one grieves more than Lir, and so I will give to him my second foster daughter, Aoife, as his wife."
Messengers were once again sent to Lir, and he received the message with equal parts affection and sadness. After an appropriate period of mourning, Lir travelled to Connaught and married Aoife. The 2 travelled to Monaghan to begin their life together, and they were happily married for many years, although Aoife did not have the blessing of children of her own. But Aoife loved her husband, and she loved the children of her sister, who were not only her niece and nephews, but her stepchildren. Of course no one loved the children more than Lir. He played with them for hours before he began work each day. Over time, Aoife realized she couldn't have children, and her love for the children of Lir and her sister turned to jealousy and hatred. Aoife's jealousy became such an obsession that she became ill, both in mind and in body. She lay in bed for a year, full of bitterness and brooding evil. Her sickness worried Lir, for he loved her and had already lost 2 wives. But his attention did not help, it only fed her jealousy. And so, Aoife reached a decision. The children must go. After a year in bed, Aoife announced that she had recovered. To celebrate, she would visit her stepfather King Bodbh and take the children with her. They set off on their journey. Soon, they reached the shores of Lake Deravara in Westmeath. With a smile on her face, Aoife led the 4 children to the lake and suggested for them to go swimming. They happily agreed. While the children were swimming, Aoife cast a druid spell. As she did, each child turned into a beautiful snow-white swan. The 4 shocked and frightened children each desperately tried to shake off the feathers. Eventually, they quieted down, and an immense sadness descended upon them. Fionnuala, like the others, still possessed her power of speech, and she turned to her aunt and stepmother and asked,
Aoife, why did you do this terrible thing to us? We have always loved you, and thought that you loved us in return.
Aoife merely watched and failed to respond to Fionnuala's questions.
Please, tell us at least this.
Added Fionnuala.
How long shall we remain in the shape of swans, so we may at least know when our misery will end?
You would have been wiser not to ask. But since you did, I will give you the answer. You will spend 300 years on Lake Deravara here in Westmeath. Then 300 more years you will spend on the Sea of Moyle between Ireland and Scotland. And then finally you will spend 300 years off Innisglora on the western Sea of Mayo. And even after that, you will remain swans until a great man brings a new god to Ireland. Neither your power, nor mine, nor that of anyone else, can free you until such time comes. But I will grant you the power to keep your human speech and your human intelligence, and your voices will be so sweet that you will sing music sweeter than any music heard anywhere in the world.
Aoife turned from the lake, leaving the swans behind. King Bodbh gave Aoife a warm welcoming at his castle. When he asked about the children, Aoife lied, saying Lir no longer trusted him. Bodbh, confused and suspicious, noticed her story was inconsistent. So, King Bodbh sent a messenger to Lir, who replied that the children had already left with Aoife. The messenger explained to Lir that Aoife had arrived alone, claiming that Lir refused to send them. Shocked, Lir couldn't understand Aoife's deception and feared something was wrong. Gathering his men, Lir immediately rode toward Connaught to determine the whereabouts of his children. He searched every mile until they reached Lake Deravara to rest. As Lir approached Lake Deravara, Fionnuala sang out, with her brothers joining. Lir was stunned to hear human voices from swans.
Dear father, I am Fionnuala, and these are your sons. Aoife, in her hatred, changed us into swans.
Lir cried out in grief.
How can I restore you to your human form?
You cannot.
Said Fionnuala.
We must remain swans for 900 years.
Then come live with us in Monaghan.
Lir pleaded.
We cannot.
Fionnuala replied gently.
We're bound to the waters. All we can do is sing for those who will listen.
Lir stayed, heartbroken, listening to their songs. At dawn, he whispered his farewell and journeyed to Connaught, where King Bodbh awaited.
Where are the children?
Bodbh asked sternly.
They're in Lake Deravara.
Lir said.
Aoife transformed them with witchcraft.
Bodbh turned to Aoife.
Is this true?
She was silent. Her guilt was plain.
You will suffer more than they,
said Bodbh furiously.
Their sorrow will end, yours will not.
He raised a golden druid wand and struck Aoife, turning her into a dark winged morrigu, a demon of the air. Her cries echoed, but no one showed her mercy. Lir left, mourning, while the swans sang on, haunting, beautiful, eternal. Aoife, now a morrigu, took the form of a hideous creature, part crow, with leathery wings and a soul cursed by her own cruelty. She was doomed to roam the skies over the most sorrowful places on earth until the end of time. News of her crime and the children's fate spread across Ireland. King Bodbh, his court, the Tuatha de Danann, and even the Gaels gathered at the shores of Lough Derravara. All came to witness the miracle and mourn the injustice. There they heard the sweetest music ever known, haunting the pure and sorrowful, the voices of the 4 swan children. For 300 years, people travelled to the lake when they were ill or burdened with grief. Listening to the swans' song brought comfort, but time passed and the swans' first era ended. On the morning of the 300th day, they rose into the sky, flying north toward the Sea of Moyle, a wild sea with steep rocky coasts. The water of the Moyle was cold and never calm. Wave after wave, forced by bitter winds, came down from the north. Great wind and snow came to the Sea of Moyle, more severe than anything they had undergone before. The storm continued day after day and night after night, but their curse prevented them from leaving. They stayed and they endured until their 300-year sentence ended. Then the swans flew west over Ireland. They landed near Innisglora, where the sea was milder, but the Atlantic storms brought new, equally harsh challenges. And so they remained on the Western Sea for the remainder of their 300 years. After 300 years on the Western Sea, just like on the lake and the Moyle, it was finally time for the Children of Lir to leave the water. They flew to their home in Monaghan, only to find it in ruins. Lir's once great castle was crumbling, its windows empty, walls broken, and halls overgrown with grass and weeds. The 4 swans spent a restless night at the empty castle, singing sorrowful songs for the past. In the morning, they returned to Innisglora, this time landing on the island. Free from the curse, they flew from island to island along the coast for years, unaware that St. Patrick had recently come to Ireland. One night, the swans heard a strange, echoing sound from Innisglora. They didn't recognize it, but Fionnuala sensed its meaning. "This must be the sign. The curse is nearly over." The 4 swans sang out as loud and as beautifully as they could, for they all now sensed an end to the curse. A priest on Innisglora, who was a disciple of St. Patrick, heard the sweet music and walked into the direction of the sound. When he reached the source of the music, he saw nothing but 4 swans. He realized immediately that these were the Children of Lir. The fame of the Children of Lir had spread. The kind priest was interested in their story and became their friend. He stayed with them every day. Together they would sing and pray until the time came when the swans went back to the bay to sleep. Time passed like this until one fateful day when the swans were finally released from the spell. All of a sudden, the 4 birds transformed back into people. 900 years had passed, and the Children of Lir were no longer children. They were now so old that they had little time left to live. As a final wish, they asked the priest to baptize them. Not long after, Fionnuala, Aodh, Fiachra and Conn all passed away at the same time. They were laid to rest together and were finally able to rejoin their father and mother again in heaven.
Please subscribe to the Magic Stories channel, like and click the bell